This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Follow up on Ms. Kwan, what she was just saying.
That work is being done by RCC. What I'm trying to get at, though, is the number of how many Afghans actually worked for Canada and under your department, under the Department of National Defence, and both by contract, and some of them are interpreters, some of them actually worked as security guards or in other capacities. So is there a figure to which the department can provide to the committee how many Afghans served Canada during that period?
I personally do not have that number with me. I will ask the Chief of Defence Staff to indicate whether record keeping occurred and the quality of that record keeping.
So, Madam Chair, I will try to add some context to the question. There's a very complex situation. I'll use my own experience there.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt for a second. I actually don't have a lot of time because I'll get cut off momentarily. I just need to know whether or not can we get at this number and whether or not it's as fulsome as it could be, as best as you can. Could you provide committee with a number?
Madam Chair, given that some of the Afghans who are working with us were actually contracted through other nations or organizations, settling on a final number, in my view, is probably impossible.
So does DND not have the records of the contracts that you've signed?
So, you want to add on?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So we don't have the amount of. We'll look and provide if we can provide a number. But like the chief explained as well, some of those people were never under contract with anybody, but had a significant relationship with the CAF, and this is part of the verification we do as well.
So maybe for the ones that did have a contract with DND. Maybe we can provide with that number and then what capacity in general categories. That would be a good place to start. There are many others who are subcontracted who are not counted, that's for sure. Daily I receive emails. Just yesterday, I hardly knew what to do. I received an email from a former interpreter of the Canadian Armed Forces who applied back on August 26, 2021, and their application went nowhere, was never vetted. They have sent me contracts and all that kind of stuff, and pictures of their family being beaten by the Taliban. I don't know what to do. I honestly don't know, and I don't know how it is that Canada have contracts with these individuals who served Canada, and we don't know who they are, we don't know where they are, or how many there are.
Both Deputy Minister Matthews and General Eyre appeared before the Special Afghanistan Committee. He said at that point in time, back on May 9th, that 7,500 Afghans had contacted the Department of National Defence, had said that they were either interpreters or had been locally engaged staff, and of that, 3,800 made the cut. So what's changed in a year that you don't have a number?
I'll start.
Yeah.
The number that we have approximately is 3,700 actually evacuated, and we had 555 Canadian Armed Forces members across the board supporting this, and we were dealing with a very tense situation on the ground, but the Canadian Armed Forces, and I'll let General Eyre speak to this, remain nimble on the ground even though the situation at the airport was extremely difficult. So
where are we at? I know at one point in time we're talking 900 interpreters. These are people that served alongside our forces that made sure they were aware of the dangers around them and stood shoulder to shoulder with our soldiers. So where are they? Are they getting here? Like, you vetted them? Is IRCC inviting them? Like, where are we at?
Madam Chair, so the numbers have evolved since 9th of May 22. I'll turn it over to General Prevost for the details.
Thank you, Chief. Madam Chair, so on the numbers of files that we've confirmed, that we've established a link with the CAF, we have vetted 4,500 files. nearly 4,500, 4,498 to be exact. So we've established a direct link. I cannot provide the member with how many of them are interpreters or contractors of any, but we've established that link for 4,500. Of those files, because the program at 18,000 now is nearly full, we are ready to submit files as IRCC is asking for those files. Right now, we've submitted 1,850 files for IRCC to invite Afghans. Obviously, you have to multiply by the number of family members, but now we're nearly close to the significant, to the 18,000 Afghans to be called. Even this morning, I provided an extra 160 files to IRCC so they can maximize the room left in the 18,000.
So you're coaching this by saying that there's definitely a limit that we're hitting here. Why would we leave anyone behind that served with our forces, that tried to make a difference, and now are enemies of the Taliban, enemies of the state in Afghanistan? Why would we leave any of them behind? We have the Special Immigration Measures Program. They're supposed to be priority. I think all Canadians understand they're supposed to be our priority. So why aren't they coming?
I'll say that there is every effort being made to continue to evacuate, as IRCC has said, 40,000 Afghan nationals, and that will include the reunification of former advisors who worked with national defense in Afghanistan with members of their extended family who are outside of Canada. And as I said, national defense is validating applications when and as requested by our IRCC, and we are doing whatever we can to facilitate the evacuation.
Minister Anand, have you been having conversations with Minister Fraser at Immigration to ensure that he is going to prioritize those that served with our veterans, those that served with our current serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces?
We are continuing to advocate for a coordinated effort by the international community and including in the Government of Canada to support all those who advised the D&D CAF, but also to ensure that families are reunited. There are a number of families that need to continue to be reunited, and that's really our
And that's
focus.
what a lot of the families here want. The families that did get out early on the first special immigration program that came, in 2013, 2014, 2015, they're trying to reunite with their families. A lot of those families were also, locally engaged staff, were interpreters, and they can't get out of Afghanistan. So the question is, are we going to let
interrupting, Mr.
immigration do what is easy? Or are we going to actually do the hard work to get those that did the hard work for us?
Sorry for interrupting. You will get time in the second round. Time is up. We will now proceed to Mr. Dhaliwal.
Chair, and just want to pick up where I left off. We're talking about the most vulnerable and targeted Afghans who were left behind. Those that served with the Canadian Armed Forces. They empowered us, they enabled us, they kept us safe. They worked with our provincial reconstruction teams, and they were more than just, local contractors. They became part of family. And our veterans, and those that are currently serving, care deeply about them. Now, we know that you're coming up on the 18,000 limit. We know that the goal is to get to 40,000, and there's a lot of easy Afghans to reach as refugees who are already out of harm's way. I think what Canadians want to know, what members of the armed forces want to know, and what our veterans want to know who served alongside them and often are suffering greatly because they're still in contact with them, when are we going to invite the rest of those that have been vetted and accepted to join us here in Canada?
So I'll begin by saying thank you for the question. Our 40,000 number is one of the highest per capita targets.
That's fine, and I think that's great, Minister.
And we are focused on vulnerable Afghans. We are focused on doing this evacuation and continue bringing through Afghan nationals as quickly as possible. It is a priority for IRCC, and D&D is assisting wherever and however possible.
We know for a fact that those that served with our forces, and even we talked about the language and culture advisors, which were Canadian Afghans who went back. There's over 40 of them. They got, over 1,000 family members back there that will also want to come. We know that they're being targeted, along with those that are interpreters in their family, by the Taliban. They're being arrested, interrogated, tortured, and executed. Are we going to protect those people? Are we going to make sure that they get a chance to come to Canada and be safe?
Well, the scenario that you are pointing to is deeply disconcerting, and we are working to support IRCC's policy to facilitate reunification of former advisors and vulnerable Afghans and members of their extended family, in fact. We are validating applications when and as requested by IRCC, and IRCC is really best placed to speak to the specific.
So are you advocating for those Afghans to Minister Fraser, saying these should be our priority? Let's help get them out. Let's give them the advice on how do they get to safe haven so that they can be brought here as refugees. Because I know our offices, including my own, one of my staffs, their cell number's gone all through Afghanistan. We're getting calls all the time. We don't have the resources to vet, and we rely heavily on the list that has come from the Department of National Defense. So will you make sure that those people are the target audience that we're trying to rescue, rather than going after the ones that have already reached safe refuge?
We are all in agreement that we need to continue to support vulnerable Afghans in getting to Canada as safely and as quickly as possible. And we, as a government, are continuing to explore additional avenues to bring more Afghans to safety as quickly and as safely as possible.
So General Prevost just said in the last round that over 1,850 people that were vetted by National Defense have been provided to IRCC. Do you know if our IRCC is going to provide an invitation for them to come to Canada, including those that were at Graceland?
Let me ask General Prevost if he would like to add anything here.
Thank you, Minister, Madam Chair. So to answer the member, these 1,840 files that were provided to IRCC are the files for which IRCC has extended an offer for application. As more space becomes available, we continue to push files that we have vetted within the department, and IRCC continues to look at how we can bring more vulnerable Afghan, the language and cultural advisor files.
Do you feel confident that the Department of Immigration, Refugee Citizenship Canada will extend the invitation to those vulnerable Afghans who are coming through the special immigration program?
Madam Chair, I'm very confident. Like I mentioned before, just this morning again, we pushed another 160 files we had vetted for IRCC that they in turn are pushing.
So Minister Anand, has Minister Fraser given you assurances that those invitations will be issued?
As I said, we're working as a government here, and it is our government's policy
I don't like the
to support
here.
vulnerable Afghans in getting to Canada as safely as possible. It is a priority for us, and we're working very hard to get to the targets that we have set.
Thank you. We will